That is such an ignorant statement. When the Palestinians say from the river to the sea, they literally are saying without Jews and Israelis living there and pushing them into the sea.
Because where's this monster is actually killing them, butchering them.
Because that's why you've condemned the statement.
You've got a theoretical statement on one side, and on the other side you're actually butchering.
So why did you condemn the statement? Because you know that's what it means. That's why you condemned it.
Why don't you condemn Netanyahu, that monster who just said from the river to the sea?
Because he's not saying that they need to displace the Palestinians.
Ben, you're the most biased man in America.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I bring to you a nuclear debate I personally didn't know I needed. Things explode between Cenk and Ben on the Young Turks as they go head to head in one of the most heated showdowns ever over the Gaza and Israel topic. Emotions run high, accusations fly, and neither side is backing down. Is this an honest debate or just a shouting match? Who's making sense and who's pushing the propaganda? With both sides convinced they hold the moral high ground, the clash is as intense as the conflict is. One thing's clear though, this debate is as explosive as the topic at hand. Mind you, this debate happened about a year ago, but the ideology, the justifications, and the crimes, whether in Gaza or West Bank, are still happening on in real time with no end in sight. Buckle up, because this one gets wild.
I do condemn Netanyahu.
The Muslims can't say it, but the Israelis can say it all day long as they do it. They're murdering Palestinians as we speak.
They need to disavow a fundamentalist belief that wants to kill all Jews as a disease and not allow them to live. That might not bother you, but it does bother me as an Israeli Jew.
That's such a weak excuse. I'll tell you why.
My people,
yes, I'll tell you why.
Please.
Because you always hide, like as if Israel's the tiny little country.
It is.
And they're so defenseless.
Tiny little country.
They're so, oh my God, they can't do anything against the all-powerful Palestinians who they imprison and take away their water, power, electricity, murder them at all terms, etc. No. If someone was actually trying to kill the Jews, Ben, I would line up in the front line with you. Are you crazy?
They just did that on October 7th.
Exactly. So you go and
we talked about how I was there. They just killed a bunch of people.
So why don't you care about Palestinian lives, Ben?
Of course I do.
24,000 dead, 10,000 children.
Of course I do.
You don't care about them. You don't care about them at all.
Cenk, you can shout all you like, but you are the one condemning them to murder. So why don't you care about their lives?
Condemning them to murder?
You're condemning them to a never-ending cycle. Palestinians.
Is being made to kill them.
Palestinians. You are condemning Palestinians to murder. Because every time I suggest that you put any pressure or the world puts any pressure on Hamas to stop, you say they're terrorists. You can't ever tell them to stop. So you can only tell Israel to stop, which, as you know, for a goddamn fact, means that this war will end, Hamas will regroup, they will kill more Israelis, and Israel will kill more Palestinians. And that's what you want. That's what you're advocating for.
That's insane, Ben.
That's exactly what you're advocating for.
I want a two-state solution where you actually have peace.
So do I.
But not Netanyahu.
That's a horrible statement he makes, and that should not be the position.
Terrorist, right?
But you add, no, not terrorist.
Of course he's a terrorist. He just said from the river to the sea, and he's actually doing it. He's 20 times the terrorist that Hamas is.
I will be with you if he actually encourages.
He's doing it, Ben. What more do you need? 48,000?
Not one person's been displaced out of Gaza.
Are you insane?
Out of Gaza, not one.
Out of Gaza, sorry. It's squished into a little corner where they're being bombed.
That's what you're saying he's doing. Why doesn't Egypt allow any refugees?
Because that's the displacement.
No, voluntary displacement, like happens in every war. At the beginning of the
voluntary. Did you just say that was a voluntary displacement?
What was?
No,
if the possibility of going into Egypt would be voluntary, like in the first month of the Ukraine-Russia war, 5.9 million people were allowed in, but for some reason, the Gazan people's neighbors, their fellow Muslims, don't allow them in. Not one person. They condemn them to death.
That's the ethnic cleansing when you drive them from their homes.
During war, temporary displacement.
One thing. So Ben, you and I agree that we have no support of, or we agree that the Netanyahu government is extremist and is disproportionately violent. Do you agree with that?
I agree they are extremists, and I agree they are not a partner for peace, and I do not agree they're disproportionately.
Okay,
I agree with that.
No, let's.
But proportion is not a standard used in war. You try to win a war. No, it's not.
It's what war crimes are all about. That.
No, it is not. It's about appropriate.
I'm curious how there can be a future with a government that has absolutely no interest in a two-state solution.
There needs to be an election. There can't be. There can't be.
And how can that future even come to be when both the U.S. is unconditionally backing And the Netanyahu government, because it has so much leverage, because we're not doing anything,
it's
is doubling down on its extremist policies.
Blinken is saying there needs to be two states.
He hasn't done anything.
Action.
That's
Show
what
one
they're
piece of
doing.
action.
One piece of action. They convinced Netanyahu's government to do a temporary ceasefire, to release Palestinian prisoners for hostages. Those were positions he was not into agreeing to, and they convinced him. Those are the things they convinced him to do. So you can yell all you want, Cenk, and you can sweat about it all you want.
Netanyahu wasn't even going to do that deal where they released their own hostages.
That's my understanding. That's correct.
So Netanyahu is such a terrorist monster. He wasn't even going to release the Israeli hostages. We had to talk him into it.
No, he was
not. We had to talk him into releasing his own hostages, getting his hostages back. Congratulations to us. We convinced Israel to get their hostages back.
But we have to understand that people in Gaza are trapped there. They have no basic services, and they're just being attacked writ large. I understand.
So how do you suggest Hamas gets removed from power? What do you suggest?
I have an idea.
No, hold on. Before I have no defense of Hamas, but I do want to understand in context how they came to be. We do know they were democratically elected. I'm not saying they're any. Yeah,
so then, do the people have any responsibility for that? If they're
do the Israeli people have responsibility? Are you in favor of terrorism? Are you saying because Israel's a democracy, they're responsible for the terrorist Netanyahu and they should be attacked?
But most people in Hamas
civilians have no responsibility. Yes, I want them to vote the right way, both in Gaza and in Israel. But if you start saying the civilians have responsibility, you're saying terrorism is okay.
Every nation bears some degree of responsibility for its leaders.
But that's what Hamas says, Ben. Be careful.
Cenk and Ben, half the population in Gaza was not even born when these folks were elected.
Sure.
All they've known is a world of cages and deprivation.
And education that makes them want to kill Jews as well.
I don't know how much of this is education. Gaza is an open-air prison, right? You wouldn't agree with that? No, I mean, it's blockaded. I mean, it was next to impossible in the times I've spent. I've been in the Sinai, so not in Israel, like full disclosure. But in the only way
you were invited in there many times.
Oh no, I was invited to Gaza.
Who cares about being there?
I've been
we can all read. We all have eyes.
I have no. It's not about that. It's about trying to understand the situation and condition within which Palestinians are living, and trying to just sort of have some compassion for that. I'm not calling. No, I'm not calling you anything. If you've noticed,
I appreciate it. Nor am I you, but I have tons of compassion for them. But I've been trying to explain forever these terms that get thrown around. Despite as many times as you and I debate about this, Cenk, and you don't have an answer to this, then the next time I'm on, you still say ethnic cleansing. It is not ethnic cleansing if the 2 million Arab Palestinians in Israel proper are treated with full rights. It is simply the existential threat coming from the government of the people in Gaza. If you can't separate that, you can't ever have an intelligent conversation about it that's going to ever evolve.
Okay, hold on. He's addressing me. So, Ben, look, we've yelled at each other. We've said nasty things about each other, including in this segment. But let's be clear, okay? So when you say that it's not ethnic cleansing to drive 85% of the people of Gaza out of their home, that sounds ludicrous. You might think it sounds fine, and Israeli supporters might think, oh yeah, I got 100 talking points, and it sounds great to us. But the rest of the world, I know you don't believe me, but the rest of the world goes, that's not ethnic cleansing? What the hell's ethnic cleansing?
Well,
if driving 85% of the people out of their homes, destroying 70% of the buildings,
punishment, right?
and now destroying the graves, which is the next story we're going to get to. So if that's not ethnic cleansing, I don't know what your definition of ethnic cleansing is.
It is while trying to remove Hamas, who you will admit fortifies itself in every bit of buildings. I was just there. I spoke off the record for over an hour to battalion commanders who explained that in 80% of homes they go into, there are weapons found, there are Hamas properties found there, tunnels under all kinds of homes.
Did you get to speak to Gazans who are suffering?
No, I wasn't able to get into Gaza.
Yeah, I know, because
I did go to the West Bank.
Because if you got into Gaza, they would have probably killed you too.
I did go to
those same battalion commanders would have killed you, just like they killed the Israeli hostages. And you're walking around in Gaza. Oops, I accidentally killed 24,000 people.
Does that not prove the fact that they've also killed their own people? Does that not prove that it's just the incredibly dense facts of this area? They're not, if they're so able to intentionally
it proves the exact opposite. No, they're not even asking. They're not even asking, who are you? What are you a threat? No, just kill on oh, damn it was Israelis. We meant to murder Muslims. God damn it, we made a mistake.
I'm so happy for you that you've never been in war and never had to deal with the decision of in the moment trying to decide.
In the moment against shirtless guys, cowards, terrorists.
Shirtless guys, they asked them to take their shirts off to make sure they didn't have
the Israeli
suicide belts on them.
The Israeli hostages, they had no shirts. They had a white flag, and the IDF murdered them because they thought, oh, good Muslims, let's kill them. And oh, damn it was Jews. We didn't mean to kill you guys. We only meant to murder Muslims.
And I just visited wounded troops in a hospital in Israel, a hospital that is still treating Palestinians who are wounded as well, as they always do, because Israel actually acts with morality in what it does. And even when trying to take precautions going into areas, this young man was shot, two that I spoke with, shot in both legs while his commander was murdered, sitting there in a field when they're trying to go.
Murdered, he was a commander in the battle. He died in battle.
Right.
Okay, now is that terrorism too?
Being what?
He killed in battle?
Is being killed in battle terrorism?
Like you're saying he was murdered, he was killed in battle, right?
Well, which terms are you going to use? Because you're calling it murder on one side, so I'm going to call it murder on the other side.
No, murder is civilians. When you murder civilians, right? Not when you kill soldiers.
Sure.
Okay, anyway, it's a small point, keep going.
Sure, so these people are trying to stop an existential threat that has continued forever. Do you think that only the Israeli people should suffer in fear forever?
No,
do you think? Why do you laugh at that? Why do you laugh at that? There were 9 terrorist attacks while I was there. That's okay with you to continue forever? So how does it stop?
So how does it stop? In a second, but Ramesh, you go, and then I got to tell her how it actually stops.
Look, I understand, and I understand where you're coming from, Ben. I mean, and I also don't claim to have the specific knowledge of being there, but I do think it's important we understand where Hamas came from and how these sets of actions are creating Hamases, more and more Hamases, so to speak, and the recognition that there has been a calculation made by the IDF and or the Israeli leadership that it's worth going after this densely populated area, killing now 24,000 plus people, 10,000
of which 9,000 are Hamas fighters.
Sure. So the calculation was
total idea of lie propaganda.
So you believe Hamas numbers? You believe terrorist numbers? But that's what you cite all the time. You cite it all the time.
Human rights
and they are using Hamas's numbers.
But either way,
according to you, no Hamas. You go like this to me during a debate.
No
Hamas has been killed. How many? None.
Guys.
I don't know. I trust the human rights groups.
The number is 9,000.
No, it's not.
So you accept numbers from the other side, yet you don't on the other side. And you also wait, hold on. Very important for the record. You also say the world agrees. The world does not agree. Jamie Raskin, who you just cited, who I had coffee with just 3 weeks ago, also, as I agree with what he's now putting up to make sure that Gazans do not get displaced, he also refused to sign a ceasefire now only agreement that didn't call for the release of hostages. And the entire European Union just passed a non-binding resolution 312 to 131. That's all they can pass is non-binding. It's not their country, to make sure that a permanent ceasefire happens only with the immediate unconditional release of all hostages and Hamas surrendering. So a big part of the world agrees the only way to end this cycle of violence is for Hamas to stop, yet no one puts pressure. Nobody puts pressure on the terrorists, only on the people being attacked over and over and over again.
I just submit to you that the acts that the IDF have committed are also terrorist acts, and I also submit to you that there's been a calculation made that it's worth killing this many civilians to get this many Hamas members, whether it's your stats or Cenk's stats.
War is terrible,
no. But the war could be stopped right now if Israel made a decision. But what does it mean? But what does it mean for Hamas to surrender? They're never going to surrender because they've been emboldened by all the things that Israel has done.
Their people are being killed and they have no chance to win. So why would they not surrender? Why would they not surrender?
And most countries in the world support a permanent ceasefire.
Guys, there's only
the release of hostages.
Exactly. That's what I support. That's what I support. But that's what I support.
Let me give you the actual.
I'm fine with all that, except I don't think the Hamas surrender thing will ever happen.
Nonsense.
Like, what do we
they should be allowed to kill Israelis forever, and then Israel should be allowed to
just let me say what the damn answer is.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Look, guys, there's only one way that this ends. Number one, America has to put tremendous pressure on Israel. Take all the money away instantly.
Absolutely.
Number two, the Israeli people. I believe in their morality and their decency. Please, I'm begging you, Israeli people, okay? Vote Netanyahu and the right-wing government now. Put in Benny Gantz or whoever it is and go towards a two-state solution. So now how do you get the two-state solution so that Israel can be safe and can live in peace? The whole point of Israel was for the Jews to be safe because they've been slaughtered all across the world for time immemorial.
I agree with all that.
It was supposed to be a safe haven. So how do you do it? You get somebody, whether it's Benny Gantz or not, to go and work with the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority, at that point, putting pressure on Palestinians, not Hamas, because Hamas is never going to bend to pressure, but Palestinian Authority can. That is a reasonable way to go. You get the entire Arab world and America to put pressure on the Palestinian Authority to do a peace deal with the Israeli government. And that's the two-state solution. Then you take the Palestinian Authority and you put them in Gaza and say, hey, they just got you a state.
The problem is many Gazans don't respect the Palestinians.
I know, hold on.
Hamas will throw them off rooftops again like they did in 2007.
Listen. No, Hamas, of course, is going to fight Palestinian Authority. That gives you a sense that maybe you could do a deal with the Palestinian Authority. And so will they try to throw them off rooftops? Of course, but that's why the Saudis, the Jordanians, the Americans all have to help the Palestinian Authority establish that authority in Gaza. And to your point, Ramesh, will they have credibility going in? No, because right now they look like they work with the occupiers in the West Bank. But if they were able to deliver a Palestinian state, then they would have the credibility to be able to do the deal.
Palestinians have the right to live in dignity, in peace, with medical care, with health care.
Israelis, of course.
Of course they do.
So
every human being should have that right?
Yes.
And there it is, annihilates Ben's defense, exposing Israel's playbook of excuses. Ben claims proportionality isn't the standard of war, yet Israel somehow remains the most moral army. Which is it? He argues Palestinians must disavow extremists and own their leadership, but Israeli civilians totally blameless for electing Netanyahu's extremist government. Cenk cuts through the hypocrisy. Israel isn't just fighting Hamas, it's pushing the entire population. If Ben wants to talk existential threats, maybe he should start with millions of Palestinians being bombed, starved, and displaced, whether that's in Gaza or West Bank. In the end, his arguments collapses, and Cenk walks away with the W. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, y'all, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Cheers.